Alrighty, back for another week, halftime. Meds and Jans. Let's get this thing rolling. It's Wednesday, April 21st. I believe so. April 21st. If I got my days right here. Wednesday, thanks for hanging out with us. Doesn't matter. Coffee break, lunch break, whatever you're doing this morning. Appreciate it. Hop in the chat. As always, we're on 12 Ounce Sports. Shout out to them. Best live shows, live sports, 12 Ounce Sports. Get into, anything. You're watching YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Here's with a comment. We'll get back to you. Lots to talk about. Lots of sports. Snap it over. Zach, what's going on, buddy?
Oh, not much, man. I got the fresh cut going on right now.
I see.
Got the COVID haircut. Don't ask me where I got it. I can't disclose that kind of information, but I really need it. So glad I was able to clean up the mop.
Figured you would have cut it yourself.
Kind of looks like it, doesn't it?
No. No, it's fresh. It feels like you're draft day ready.
I'm draft day ready. I'm just ready to talk everything sports. We've got a lot to talk about today. So I figure, you know what? I'll clean up for this week's episode because gotta look good, and I feel good about what we got on the list today.
Yeah, I'm still rocking midwinter flow here. We got a ton to talk about, though. CFL, NHL, little soccer. Maybe we'll dive into baseball. Jays, Raps looking all right as well out east there. Can't complain. Okay, what was your draft day story, though? You got picked by the Eskimos, right? Yeah. What was it like for you? In the CFL draft, is it like a big spectacle? Are you going there in person? Is it all done remotely?
It's done remotely. So you don't so the way they do is TSN will broadcast the first 3 rounds. And then after that, you're just kind of left to your own devices. Literally, you're on your laptop and phone, just refreshing the internet, seeing where you go kind of thing. That was kind of my case. And I got invited to the regional combine, right? And I got drafted actually my year out of junior. So I wasn't really I had some hopes that maybe I get drafted, but I thought I'd be a later pick, which kind of ended up happening. So I knew for sure I wasn't going to go in the first 3 rounds. So I kind of just hung out in my room, played PS4 or whatever it was at the time for hours on end. And then I kind of checked in from rounds 4 to 5 and figured, you know what? I'm not going to really waste too much time on this. I might not even get drafted at the end of the day. I'll just kind of wait for my phone to buzz. And my phone didn't ring initially. I remember my parents were the ones who were kind of glued to the laptop, just refreshing the page every minute or so until they saw my name pop up. And I believe I was 46 overall in round 6, I believe, to the Edmonton Eskimos. And they're like, Zach, turn on your phone, whatever. So I saw it, and then I didn't get a call for the first half hour. Then eventually, Chris Jones, obviously he was the head coach at the time, and Craig Dickinson was the special teams coach. They both called me and just told me how excited they were to see me. And once I got the call, it was really cool. And just, obviously it was a dream come true at that point. And I've been working, tirelessly at that time, 3-4 years to get that call. And just to kind of have everything in fruition, just kind of turn up the way it was. It was definitely a relief in a way. And it was a very satisfied feeling for sure.
Okay. No, that's funny. That's when I think of small drafts, the Western League, the OHL for you guys. Yeah. And it's really just a bunch of I think, what are we, 9th grade when we get drafted? It's 10th grade in the OHL. So just a bunch of 9th graders. We're all sitting around a computer refreshing it. No one's getting any schoolwork done. That's the draft experience there. Kind of funny, but okay. Let's talk the big news though. Patrick Marlow. I thought that was cool. Everyone, if you're watching, hop in the chat, say what's up, say, your thoughts on Patty Marlow, because another Sasky guy to beat Gordie Howe's games record, 1768.
You obviously know something about, man. These guys, I don't know what's going on over there.
Yeah, fun fact, my sister lives in Aneroid now, and there's 20 people that live there. So what a connection there. But it's just crazy to think about. And I get it, from a football perspective, you're not playing 82 games in a season, but 1,768 games, especially in the best league in the world. That's insane.
It's an insane stat. And you know what? Obviously here I am being a homer again, going back to the guys from Philly, but I've been watching guys like Claude Drew my whole life, right? And like I feel like, obviously people will talk about he's obviously on the back nine. He's been playing forever. The guy hasn't even hit 1,000 games yet. He'll probably hit it next season, but like to think that like I've been following this guy's career for however long it's been, almost 14, 15 years, he still has yet to hit 1,000 games. And Marlow's played double the games that Drew's played. Like Patrick Kane just played his 1,000th game like this season. Yeah. Right. So it's crazy to think about. And then you look at Patrick Marlow. Oh, it's like, it's not a big deal. He's like 700 games past that guy. So it's and the craziest feat that obviously a lot of people saw the other day, including yourself, was what was it? Like he's played against 37.
Yeah, 37% of the like players in the league
that have ever laced on a pair of skates to play in the show, which is an absolutely insane stat when you think about it. And you know what? I understand like the past couple of years, obviously, he's getting older. Like, let's just face it, he's getting older, but at the same time, like he's also played like 899 games straight. Like that Iron Man streak is for real, man. Like that will be a record that won't be broken. The most games played will be very hard to get to, and his Iron Man streak, that won't be getting touched anytime soon. Probably past my lifetime.
I think there's something like he's never missed a game in his 30s. Something like that. Wild.
Man. Well, it just goes to show you his work ethic, and he takes his off season seriously. It's hard to do because the guy's like he has like 4 or 5 kids, whatever it is, too. So that on top. So I mean, they must be keeping him in shape as well. But it's crazy that he hasn't been hurt one game or just like healthy scratch. But crazy, man.
And then everyone kind of going, oh, he's going downhill. Like, probably doesn't deserve to be in the league. Like he's got like 50 points in the past 2 seasons. Like it's not like he's a scrub.
No, you don't think. Yeah, he's not a scrub at all. No, the guy's still effective.
Well, yeah, that's for sure. And I don't know. I find it interesting where people are like, well, San Jose was just re-signing him just so they could get that record. Well, even if that's the case, I mean, you got to tip your hat to him and be like, holy, what a run you just had.
Yeah, exactly. And so you said, yeah, he's not a scrub at all. Obviously, he's still been effective. I mean, it was only 2 years ago that when he was with the Leafs, and yeah, they have a great offense, but he was a part of that leadership group that helped them get to where they are. And what do you have, like 27 goals at the age of like 38? Yeah, the guy can obviously still get it done. It's just, again, yeah, people have to respect the fact that he's gotten to this point without one injury, without one kind of just like bump in the road, and just able to just keep plugging away, right? Because even last year, he went to Pittsburgh, and like he's been kind of bounced. He's been shuffled around here and there the past few years, but he's still finding ways to stay healthy for all these games without missing one single game, which is nuts, man. When you think about it, it's a crazy feat to look at.
Who's got the record for the most CFL games? I had no clue.
I honestly, that's a good question. I'm going to assume
Wow. Paul McCallum has 340. Anthony Calvillo has 329.
I was going to guess Anthony Calvillo or guys like maybe like Damon Allen.
Yeah.
The QB would probably be up there. But that's a tough question, yeah. Or a guy like Warren Moon, maybe.
Calvillo's a legend.
Calvillo, yeah, man. He was I was with him in the Argos, man. Just like,
yeah,
it's crazy because people don't really know this. Obviously, when you think like most passing yards all time, they're going to think of an NFL quarterback, right? You're going to look at obviously like Drew Breeses, the Tom Brady's, the world, Peyton Manning's. But in professional football, the most passing yards belongs to Anthony Calvillo.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Some of those Als teams were sick, though.
Insane with Trustman there, man. I've been a part of Trustman's teams, man. Like you do not want to get across that guy's crosshairs. Like it's not a fun time, but legendary coach, man. Legendary.
As a Bears fan, that's a trigger word, but I don't know who Morton Anderson is, but he had 382 NFL games.
Okay.
And then Adam Vinatieri, second, 365 NFL games.
Oh yeah, man. The guy's been playing pretty much my entire lifetime. He's played like 23 years in the league. He's still going too. Yeah, I don't think he's like officially hung him up yet.
That's wild. 365 games. Like it doesn't seem like a crazy amount, but when you're thinking about football, playing one a week.
Exactly. It adds up, man, over time. It's even like when you look at guys like Renee Paredes or like Rob Maber, like he played 10 years, but it's a hard feat to even get over like 100 games, right? Like I'm nowhere even close to that. Like I think I'm at like 50, 60 something like that. And I feel like I was, I've had a decent run at it. But then you see these guys like the guy who just recently retired from your boy there over in Edmonton, Calvin McCarty. Like guy's been playing forever, man. And I think he's probably well over 200 games. It's just a crazy feat to think of.
I mean, even just to play one,
And
for most people is unthinkable. Like, think about how few players actually play in the CFL. I mean, there's 9 teams.
well, think of it this way. So I bring up his name, and I'm pretty sure he spent his entire career in Edmonton, which, like, obviously we all know, like, for those CFL fans out there, it's a very obviously it's a 9-team league now, but it's a very recycled league. Like, I play for 4 teams, right? The fact that you're able to stick on one team for your entire career is an anomaly. That hardly ever happens.
Yeah, you think of like all the good quarterbacks too in the league, like the ones who end up bouncing around. Doesn't matter if it's Kevin Glenn, Mike Bishop back in the day. Like it is a recycled league in a sense, but it's also a league that doesn't get the respect that it deserves. When you look at how guys like Johnny Manziel have done when they come up here, when you look at how all these supposedly college stars are supposed to change the game, and they come up here and they do squat. I mean, that's as simple as you can put it. There's a reason why these players get recycled is because they understand the game.
Oh, for sure, right? And then guys, I guess in like Manziel's case, he actually looked pretty good when he was up here for whatever it was, the year he played when he started up in Hamilton and then came into Montreal. Because like the build of this league and the style, I quarterback kind of fit his skill set, where like his game's based off of essentially backyard football. Like, it's improv, right? Like, when the play breaks down, then what are you able to do on the run? And did
he have a 5-pick game in Hamilton?
What's that?
Didn't he have like a 5-pick game in Hamilton?
I mean, he may have a write off there, but I mean, man, he went to Montreal though. Like, he was doing like decently well there. Like, he was making, obviously nowhere near what he was making in the NFL, but still, he took a huge pay cut when he decided to go to that startup league in the States. I forget the name of it. It'll come to me at some point. Not the XFL, but the one.
The AAF.
AAF, exactly. And then where they're making, I think it was like $80K across the board for everybody. Everyone was at their own set bar in terms of salary. And like he was set to make $400K for the Alouettes going into the following year. And it's like, you had some success. It's like, why not stick out another year? If your plan is to get back to the NFL, just stick it out, have one decent year, and I'm sure you'll get a call. And then the AF, as we all know, ended up going under after 6-7 weeks. So it was just shitty times.
That's funny. It's kind of I totally understand the reason of why they want more football in the States and why they think they can handle it. But it's always something where they're just swinging for the fences. They're never fine with just being like, well, let's just make a sustainable league. It's like, no, we got to rival the NFL. We got to do this. We got to do that. It's just like, hey, just put on a decent football. Like there's that one in Texas. It's like the spring league.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever like watched it? Like what's that comparable to? That's just a bunch of college kids kind of just looking for an opportunity, maybe a tryout somewhere.
Yeah, I guess if you want to classify them, I hate doing this to players, but classify them as like castaway players or like long shot NFLers at some point. But guys just, maybe we're on the cusp of getting drafted, but not quite there yet. Just kind of some guys that just might need more time to kind of develop after college, where they can get like a serious look from a pro league, whether it be CFL, XFL, or obviously the main goal would be the NFL. But man, some of these guys can actually play though, man. The thing is that like I've seen from my experience in the CFL, some of the best players I've ever seen came from the Arena Football League, and not just the AFL.
I love Arena Football. I love Arena Football.
Yeah, and and for me, if I'm a scout, like think about it, and you're going to like, how are you gonna like scout someone in the Arena Football League? Because like the field's it's half as big. You know what I mean? There's not that much room. It's like it's more what guys can do in close spaces, right? So obviously you're gonna look at like speed and stuff. But how are you gonna judge someone's like top end speed on like a field like that?
Yeah, you're definitely looking at like skill specs. Yeah. When you're, if it's a receiver, you're kind of looking at how they go one-on-one, how they create space. Running back, same thing, their explosiveness. You can kind of scout little things, but again, as you said, it's on a way different scale.
Yeah.
But it's fun football. I give them that. I will always give the Arena League that it is fun football to watch.
Dude, they even made like a video game back in the day that I used to play all the time. It was on the PlayStation 2, man. I love that game. But yeah, you're totally right. I think if it helps in any regard, I think the decision making has to be very, very quick in that league, especially when the field's so condensed with like whatever it is, like 7-on-7 or whatever, and obviously kickers. There's no punting, obviously. It's just kicking, right?
Yeah.
But no, it's really cool. But yeah, like some of those guys I like played against. I assume, oh, you must have played in the NFL for a bit. Like, nope. Like I like play college at this like D2 school, then played for the Arena League like for like 3 to 4 years. And I'm like, okay, like you're well in the NFL from like the season you're having, or if you just want to stay in the CFL as well. But it's crazy how they like even with like these like small town college kids who like maybe play like NAI or like JUCO, that they like kind of seek out, because obviously with D1 there's so many athletes you have to pay attention to, that there is a lot of diamonds in the rough in these smaller tier schools that could pay off. Like you got a guy like Bo Levi Mitchell, which I guess is still 1A AA, and like Mike Riley, like they all played in that same conference, and that forget the name of it, but they're in the same conference as Simon Fraser right now. It's like Eastern Washington and Central Washington, and those schools out there. Just who else was out there too was the quarterback for the Alouettes. I'm drawing a blank right now. Adams.
Vernon
Adams. Like like him and Bo Levi went to the same school, I'm pretty sure.
Wasn't it Eastern Washington?
Eastern Washington, yeah.
Yeah, they got the red turf.
Yeah, exactly. I think he started off at Oregon, then transferred, but still, it's like these like smaller schools, and you like all these like CFL quarterbacks, like all like the greater names come from this crop of like 3 or 4 schools. So it's crazy how they're just so focused in that area, but it seems to be working out because these are like legends, and one day we'll probably be future Hall of Famers.
You want to know what's funny is when I was 16, I was playing down in Missoula, home of University of Montana, and Dave Dickinson was down there.
What's that, sorry?
It was Dave Dickinson, I believe it was, who played at Montana. Pretty sure it's Dave Dickinson who played there. And, I mean, you would have thought that this guy was an NFL hero. I mean, like, his jersey, Montana jersey, all over the place. There's CFL replicas. Like, it was something else. They thought he was just the coolest thing in the world. And you're kind of like, wow, like an American who's like, 6 hours away from Seattle, 8 hours away from like Denver. They're like focused on the CFL, or they're paying attention to the CFL just because one guy from Montana went up there.
Close to the border too, eh? It's just like it's like Canada 2.0 out there.
Well, yeah, for sure. But it was just kind of cool how like they followed the CFL more than any other American place I've ever seen.
I love that too, because obviously you might know better than me, but those like smaller schools, even when we look at like schools like so we had a guy named Brock Jensen from Ottawa, and he actually started over Carson Wentz for his first 2 years, and Carson was the backup there. But I think he went to North Dakota State. But like you look at these like smaller states and smaller towns, and like it's all they have, right? It's just like the whole community just kind of like gravitates to that area.
Yeah, NDSU, have you seen their barn that they play in, that little Fargo Dome?
That's got to be rocking, man, especially when exactly. It's like domed over, so that noise just like condensed into that little bubble. Oh, man, blow the doors off of that.
You can only put like 15,000 in there, but it's ruckus. I mean, that's a college town to be in.
Oh yeah, no doubt. But just these little small, man, I've always been kind of like jealous of that, and them not playing in that kind of like environment too. It's like you play in these like little towns, and sure, it might not be like an SEC school, but it'd be kind of cool walking in there as like a rock star, because these like smaller towns, like 5,000 people, like everyone knows who you are, so you're like under the microscope wherever you go.
Who's got the best like U Sports or CIS barn for football, or like fan base atmosphere? Who's got that?
It's not even close, dude. It's not even close. Well, I mean, I think I talked about it last episode, but I started off my U Sports career with the University of Montreal, and every time they have a really good crowd too, actually, for how small the stadium is. It's kind of like a soccer setup where like the fans are really close to the field, like you're literally within that reach. But man, the most impressive barn, the loudest one, is Laval.
Laval, yeah, the Rouge et Or.
Dude, I remember I was in there. So my very first time I went there, again, like out there, so you have to do sage up, right? So it's like after high school, you have another 2-3 years of sage up before you even go to university. And I think it's the same thing in Alberta, like pretty much every other province except for the Q, where you're like seasoned when you're like a freshman. You're like 22 years old, whereas us, it's high school, then university, so you're like 18, 19. So I'm like this soaking wet, like 5'11", 160-pound kicker coming in, going up against like men already. Some guys are already in their like mid-20s, and like I remember like pregame, like it was like a sold-out barn, like 17,000 people. Like the fans are like pouring beer on us in the tunnel, And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, I've never been a part of this. I come from this small town of St. Thomas, Ontario, where like it's just our like parents and friends coming up to games, like maybe like 100 to this, and like people like throwing stuff at us and beer being poured on me. I'm like, oh my god, like I got to worry about this now. But it's a really cool environment.
Yeah, that happened my very first junior win too. I was in Cody, Wyoming, little hick town. Yeah, heading off the ice, thought I was, just king shit. Won my first junior hockey game. Boom, on the head. I'm like, oh, that's how this is gonna go. Yeah. Best just to shut up and get off the ice at that point.
That's it. Just
no, Laval's got a sick stadium too. I always think that U of S though, when they get like a lot of fans out there, they've got a pretty solid setup. Where's U of A play out of? They don't play out of the
Edmonton, right?
Well, yeah. I don't think they play at a Commonwealth Stadium though, do they?
Oh no, they have their own field with those like bright yellow end zones. I remember.
Yeah. I don't think I've really ever been to a U of A game. I don't think they would get a ton of fans.
There we go.
Yeah, the Golden Bears, little shade at them. Calgary, like the Dinos play out of McMahon, so that ruins any atmosphere.
Yeah, I actually like McMahon, but it obviously, it's not.
Well, yeah, but for U Sports, like you're not putting, like if you're getting 500 fans, it's dead.
Yeah, and I feel like correct me if I'm wrong, because you might know this better than me, but I feel like that university is more of like a commuter school for the most part. So you're not going to really get that many Dinos fans coming out to the games, which is kind of fortunate because they've had some great teams over the past, like really good teams. Like if they weren't winning the Vanier, they were right there in like the semifinal, like every other year, it felt like.
Yeah. I kind of like the Vanier Cup format. I just like how it plays down a little bit. It always seems like it's a close game in the end too. Is it not? Or is that just like because every time I watch it, I feel like it's coming down to like a last like second field goal or something. It just feels close.
It was, I would say, up until I probably started university, like every top four teams usually had a shot to win it. And then I don't know what happened out east. I don't know if it was like recruiting, like overhaul like coaching staffs, but like they're
dominating.
Man, but yeah, that's like, out east, like St. Mary's, Santa Fe, like the East schools were once like dominant schools and programs who could compete with like the best of like the Lavals of the world, or U of S is like they've had some really good teams in the past. Western, Queens, backs. That like ever since I've been in like university, like it's been like a bye week whenever you like play one of those schools. Like I remember, I wasn't part of this team, but Western, I remember like 2 years ago beat, I think it was Acadia like 71-3, and then the year before that, like Mac beat I don't know if it was like St. Mary's or like St. FX, but just bullied them like 50 something to like 10. It's like it's literally been like a bye week. You just like walk in there, or they come to you, and you just get through that game, and it's like pretty much like you have your ticket to the Vanier Cup. So hopefully they can change that soon, because it does kind of suck to see, because they obviously you look at the East now, it's kind of like no one's really going to take them seriously, but hopefully they can get back to where they used to be.
Yeah, I'm looking at the last one, 2019. Calgary beat Montreal 27-13.
Yeah.
After that, Laval, Western. There's a couple of close games there for a while. I mean, it's all 3-1, 2.
US.
What?
Look at the semifinal games though.
Yeah, no. There's
like
there's like a stretch where there was like 5 years of games within 3 points.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Then also 2004, 7-1 was the final. Laval beat Saskatchewan.
Jeez, yeah.
Imagine buying a ticket to go watch that.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I was like maybe like I don't know, like 3 months ago, I just fell down this like rabbit hole. And this is when like I don't know if you remember the name, but Benoit Gru was the QB of Laval at the time. This is going like way, and like he actually. So when I went to Bishops for my recruiting visit there, he was the OC at the time, and I just thought it was like the coolest thing meeting him, because he was like this like declarated like Laval QBs, won like 3 or 4 Vanier Cups, whatever, and like you like see him, he's got this kind of like beer belly, and even like when he was playing, but like mentally he was just like such a solid player. And I remember at the time though, like they were those like the prime years were for like Laval, where no one could ever beat them. And I remember watching them play against U of S on like this YouTube clip, and it was like minus like 30 out, and it was like there was no like really like highly skilled like wideouts or like DBs or running backs. It was just like all, like smash mouth football to like the very end. I think that final score was like 10-7. It was like just run all game. And you're right, like US. I think that they were hosting that year. It was a packed bar, and I'm like, oh, these fans sitting out here. It's like -20 out. It's insane.
Yeah. Too cold for that. That's my issue with the CFL. And I've been on a million rants. I guess you're probably best to speak on this though. Like, why do they not have the season start earlier? Like, doesn't it kind of not ruin the football, but if like the Grey Cup or the semifinals are in shitty weather, doesn't that somewhat take away from the football? And I get it. People are like, oh, it's the Canadian League. Canadians got to be tough enough to play in this weather. I don't know. It really throws me for a loop when a football game can be decided by weather when it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, no, it's man, sorry, it's tough. So are we gonna talk about like the season not starting right now?
Yeah, like we can kind of get into the shortened season too and combine it all, because like it really does come down to they stretch it out, and I get it, they want to maximize the games, that's going to make revenue, but when it comes down to it, I don't know. The snow is just the one thing that grinds my gears.
The snow? Well, yeah. You know what?
Well, just the winter games and big games. Like if a CFL or if the Grey Cup is going to be decided, between a passing team and a running team, and, the only reason one team wins is because, they're fine with playing in the snow. I don't know.
Here's the thing. Yeah. So I'm with you. I'm on the same page here. So I feel like every Grey Cup should always be played indoors, or if you have some sort of like California weather like place in Canada, which does not exist, play there. But I mean, it should always be in BC. It should be in Toronto, since you can always play out the Rogers Center there, where the Blue Jays play, or you can play at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal. Like, you have 3 choices there. Take your pick, right? Like, don't like I understand like. I hate the fact, like, and it is cool. Like, I don't mind the fact that, like home field advantage should exist, but up to like the semifinals. After that, the best of the best, it should be an even playing field in the final game. It shouldn't be played out in like Saskatchewan, where it's gonna be like -30, and they're used to those elements from like year after year, where you have a team like Toronto or Hamilton coming out there, and it's it's still like decent weather in the like mid-November, and you come out there and it's like -20, and it feels like -35 with the wind chill, and like you have this like highly passing offense with a guy like Jeremiah Minnesota and Brandon Banks, and now you have to throw half your game plan out the window because they can't use it because the ball's just going to die in the air. So that's why it should be indoors.
I agree with that. I agree, and maybe not so much about the neutral site, because I do think that there is an element of your regular season should matter. And I get it why they do the whole host city for the Grey Cup, because they plan festivities around it. It's a big moneymaker. Mm-hmm. But again, you still should earn some of those home field advantages up until the semifinals, finals. I think that's fine. But again, move the season back a month. Play Saskatchewan in October. You're probably sitting around 0. Maybe a little warmer if you started earlier. Maybe a little colder if it's an off one. But it's a lot different than November. I mean, you're looking at snow almost automatic. You're looking at very cold wind, and it's just it's not going to be fun.
Yeah, and you also avoid going, kind of clustering in with the NFL schedule, right? So that's like another month that you avoid, and obviously we have so many viewers, and that's part of the reason why the CFL starts up in like this, like late spring, summer months or whatever, because you're like trying to avoid as much as you can of other elite sports starting up at that time, right? So you're right. If you back it up a month, then you kind of avoid the NFL schedule a little bit. You have more and more viewers kind of, checked into our games rather than the NFL. So no, I definitely like that idea. I think that'd be the way to go down the road.
Hasn't the Grey Cup been on TV in the States now for the past few years? Isn't ESPN?
Every game.
Yeah.
I think it's been like ESPN Plus, ESPN3.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely something to consider when, you kind of want to grow that global audience. And I get it. We won't dive into the whole XFL stuff. But, okay, like sticking with CFL news here, though, obviously the owners, managers, whoever, the high-ups, they're meeting yesterday, today. Looks like a shortened season kind of from everything that I've heard. I don't know if you've heard differently. But, again, like what's the minimum amount of games you could say is an actual season? Like, would you rather have just East teams play East teams, get to the finals and just play a winner, even if that is a 6-8 game season? Or, you know, do you think guys want 12, 16 minimum just to consider it worth their time?
Well, there's like honestly so many variables that go into it, and like I'm not really sold that they're even gonna play a season at all, because you can only say that you're in talks so many times before people just don't believe you anymore, right? There's no money coming from anywhere. There's certain teams who aren't even like committed to playing this year, right? So that's another hurdle that they have to overcome too. Like MLSC doesn't want to fund the Argos as much as they have been in the past, right? And like owners are losing money, so they're not going to invest more money than what they're losing already. You know, so this money has to come from somewhere, and people don't have to understand this too. Is that like 60% of the CFL's revenue from each team comes from home game activity, right? So you're looking at ticket sales, you're looking at concession stands, food, parking, all this stuff goes into it, right? And without that, I don't really see, without having fans in the stands and that element to the game, it's like, how are you going to stay afloat? It's literally going to be impossible. And like when you look at the years past, like teams are already like struggling. You're like, it's no secret the Alouettes, for how good they've been in the past, the Argos have been another team in recent memory that are really struggling, and teams like Sask were the ones that are kind of backing them up and providing money for them to kind of stay afloat in certain areas financially. So now you like take that out of the equation. You know, teams like Sask probably need a little bit of money. And then you look at the Argos, you look at the Owls. They're supposed to be a new expansion team in Halifax coming up. Like, what are they going to do? Like, there's not going to be enough money to build a new stadium for them. So it is really dire times right now for the CFL. And I hope they get back on the field, because I have a lot of friends who are still signing contracts, and I look forward to seeing them play. But I don't really see a feasible plan right now going forward. And I hope I'm wrong, but right now it does not look good.
And so, at least here in Alberta, they've said that the government has said that they hope to lift all restrictions for like fans, outdoor fans and stuff like that in July, late July.
Yeah.
From my perspective, not to get political, government's always 2-3 months ahead of themselves. Like, for the most part, I would say they're always looking at best case scenario. So now all of a sudden, if you can't get fans in the building by August, September, now you're pushing it. Now you're looking at, like, do we bubble up? And, like, okay, from a football player's perspective, would it be crazy to play 2 games a week? Play on a Wednesday and a Sunday?
Oh, man, there's years where I played 3 games in a week.
I'm not talking London Beefeaters here. Like,
no, CFL. No,
really?
CFL, yeah.
Wow.
Since like it's not even, right? So since there's always like 9 teams now, there's always that odd team that's going to get kind of screwed over with the scheduling. And my first year at Ottawa, I remember, I think it was London Beavers. No, I remember it was Sunday we played the Alouettes. The Wednesday we played someone else, and then we played someone else like on like the Friday. Like, it was I think it was
That's wild.
3 games in 10 days, which is still insane though. But what our coaching staff did at the time is that we didn't have any like practices. It was just walkthroughs kind of thing. So you just and you need to, obviously, to avoid injury. I remember like 10 games in 3 days. I think that's the only time I ever had to do that. But the 2 games in 1 week it's definitely more common than what you think.
100%. But I'm just thinking, like, if you're to bubble the teams up for a month, you know, put 2 bubbles together, one in BC, one in Toronto, could you get 8 games out of that? And then, you know, maybe try put a Grey Cup together somewhere after. You know, like, would there be the opportunity for guys to be like, hey, you know, we're just going to go live in this bubble for a month. We're going to play 6 to 8 games and go from there.
I'd be fine with that, honestly. Like, even if there was no fans for a little bit, it just kind of it is what it is, right? You know, you like see other sports dealing with it, but at the same time, you look at these other elite sports, and they have hundreds of millions of dollars to back them. They have to work.
Yeah.
I honestly, I would love that, and I'd be tuning in, right? So would you, but at the end of the day, like, the elephant in the room is, where's that money going to come from?
Yeah, and the CFL owners, I mean, like, as you said, they've been funding other things. They've been keeping teams afloat, you know, instead of pocketing it themselves. I think up here in Edmonton, the football team paid something like $8 or $9 million a couple years ago to the Owls in general, just to keep them up. Like, that's tough. That's $8 or $9 million that could be staying in Edmonton and could be used to fund something like a bubble. If
Well,
not
that's
for
what they need to try to avoid. Like it was already like a problem in the past where you have this team helping out that team, and it was mainly Sask helping out multiple teams. And it's like, guys, like at some point, when are you going to be able to kind of pull your own weight here? And I don't think Sask really had an issue with it because obviously in Regina, it's the Rough Riders for versus everybody. I mean, I know you have like the Pats too now, but let's be serious.
They're not even close.
Not even close, right? Which is cool. It's really cool vibe there. And if you talk to a lot of players who've like played there or played there just in general, against the Rough Riders, like that's one of the coolest environments to play in. It's a sold out barn every night now, especially with their new Mosaic Stadium that holds up to 40,000 people. It's like it's the only stadium with kind of like an NFL field, right? But then outside of them, like who has that? Who sells out every game? Like Ottawa, when I was there, some nights did. Toronto, not even close. Like you're lucky if you get 12,000 fans out a night and like a 28,000 seat stadium.
I always thought that Ottawa and Hamilton were cool, but their stadiums kind of suck. Like from a game atmosphere feel, like it just looks like a grandstand at like a something you expect at like a horse race. It doesn't feel like a football stadium. It's not that whole wraparound bowl, great crazy college vibe. I don't know. That's my opinion.
You love that flashy feel. I know. I like.
I love the flashiness.
when you look at it, I like it though, just because like CFL standards, like it's obviously not the NFL or like college football, right? So like all you really need is like, and that's why I love BMO because it's really it's the atmosphere is really cool. It's right off the lake. The ambiance is terrific, and it's all you need for like a CFL stadium. It's 28,000 to 3,000 people, which is literally all you need, right? Nothing more, nothing less. But I mean, again, you come from a pretty spoiled province there in Saskatchewan, where they can afford to have like 40,000+ people, and so. But that's the only team in the CFL that's able to get away from it. Like Winnipeg has a really cool stadium too, so I feel like
they do, yeah.
Because they're like one of those, they might have one of the bigger ones in the CFL, if not the biggest, other than Commonwealth. Commonwealth is probably the biggest. That's why you're dropping.
I always chirp Commonwealth though.
Really?
Yeah. Well, okay. Here's my issue with it: is what's the point of having a 60,000 seat stadium in Edmonton? It feels dead. I mean, I've been to multiple games up here. There's no atmosphere. There isn't. It's every fan sitting 19 aisles away from each other. It's spread out all over. It's not that loud.
They should do there, obviously, what they're doing with like stadiums right now that can't hold full capacity, is just banner it off with like their advertisements, like the top tier level, just banner those off to make them look, I don't know, like cool or like presentable, so it doesn't look ugly and dead. And then just from like the middle bowl down, if they whenever they actually do get fans back in the stadium, then you start just get all the fans in one area, so it just kind of it like seems louder and it looks like it's actually packed.
Yeah, but even for that bottom bowl, you're looking at like 30,000 plus, and I get it. Like their paid attendance, whatever they're announcing is going to be like high 20s. Yeah. But I mean, they still can't sell it out. I don't know. I don't know if it's a Edmonton issue, CFL issue. Like there's enough people up here. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I feel like, marketing wise, it's tough. It's a tough sell where games aren't as fun to go to. I've been to some Stamps games that have been way rowdier. And I mean, as a CFL fan, I go for the rowdiness. I go for Saskatchewan to see people just crushing Pilsners, having the time of their lives, eating stupid food. It's a spectacle. It's an event. You get none of that in Edmonton.
You just hit it right on the head too. I think it does come down to marketing, right? And you look at like the average CFL fan now, it's either you're like an old head where you're like in your late 70s or 80s, like those are like the true diehard CFL fans, or you're like in your mid 20s and you're off of like Lakeshore Avenue, like Toronto, like, oh, like, okay, there's a game on at like 7 p.m. on like a Wednesday night. That's like $20. Let's go tune in for a little bit. So you don't really have those like serious CFL fans right now, whereas Sask, like they exist everywhere, right? But in terms of marketing, you look in Toronto, it's like you have the Blue Jays, like the Argos are like the fifth fiddle. You have Blue Jays, you got the Raptors, you have the Leafs, TFC is ahead of them now, and then you have the Argos. So the marketing from the MLSC side needs to improve. And like even other markets, Edmonton, I can't really speak for, because I felt like when I was there it was pretty good for the most part, because other than the Oilers, they don't really have much competition. And same thing out in Calgary too, right? But no, I know what you mean though. Like I've been in Edmonton where you go in there and it is a bit dead because even though they do generate a lot of fans, it's a 60,000 seat stadium, right? So and I always see like they're like nightly or sorry gamely attendance, and so it's like in like the high 20s, like maybe like mid 30s on like a really good night. And it's like it needs to go up. You're right.
There's such a balance, and I know you're not a huge soccer guy, but I gotta ask, like, do you think that the MLS is hurting CFL attendance, where the Whitecaps have by far surpassed the Lions now? TFC and their success, they've by far surpassed the Argos. And when you look at TFC, it's almost a conflict of interest where they're going to promote TFC before the Argos from a revenue standpoint. As frustrating as it is, I mean, they're the ones making them more money, so they're going to do that. I mean, Montreal, they've got CF Montreal now. They're outdrawing the Alouettes. Saskatoon's going to be next in line, I would assume, for a professional soccer team or something like that.
That might be. I don't know. It's going to be really hard to kind of dethrone the Rough Riders, man. But you're right.
Well, no, not to dethrone them, but again, what do you think of markets where the Saskatchewan Rush lacrosse-wise, once they came, that buzz around them, I mean, it hurt the Riders' attendance for a while.
Yeah.
Obviously the I think 18 or 19 season, they weren't as good. So obviously people are going to go back to the original green. But, it's still, you're battling audiences in Canada.
Well, and it's something because like you have so many soccer fans in this country too, right? Like a lot of people play the sport. Like a lot of people migrate over from Europe and various countries where soccer is the primary sport. And like you're right, it all comes down to marketing and money. Because you look at TFC when they first came in, like there was a little buzz, but there was nothing like Dwayne Rosario didn't really like send them over the edge completely, right? But then when it got Jermaine Defoe from Tottenham, and then when it got Sebastian Giovinco, those are the names, and like Jose Altidore that really got him over that hump. And it's like, are you gonna watch him or are you gonna watch guys like and it sucks to say, but like whoever's like the star player on the Argos at that time, right? It's like you're gonna pay attention to the guy who's been like this European legend that's coming overseas, and it's like still in the middle of his prime, like Giovinco was, who's gonna draw out a sold barn every night of like 30,000 people, and he's also getting paid $7 million a year, right? And then you look at the Whitecaps when they got Alphonso Davies, like the next like Canadian phenom that Canada. Well, first of all, Canada hasn't really had a soccer phenom like him, so he's their like star, like he's their guy, and guys like
he was selling out BC Place by himself almost.
Exactly, right, and Theo Blair over there is starting to come up too, right? So these are the guys on the radar where you want to watch every night. Whereas Mike Riley, he's a big name, but I mean, it's you can't really compare apples to apples here, right? It's Alphonso Davies generate way more buzz than him. Let's just be serious.
You're talking about a guy who was Riley making Mel? Seven figures? Yeah. So he's making around 7, where Alphonso Davies, his transfer value alone is like 60 million right now. I mean, that's not even his normal salary. So
now it's one of the best clubs in the world, right? He plays for Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
And again,
arguably the best.
Yeah, right. And then you have guys like Jonathan David who plays in France now. He's like a top tier striker. So like they have all these guys coming up now where it's like you're right. All these markets are going to be kind of compromised with this like Canadian corpus of soccer talent coming in, where it's going to be tough to compete against. And again, it's like unless the marketing changes where you can kind of get the CFL back on the radar, like I don't really, especially with no season going to happen. Like I don't really see it like these changes happening anytime soon.
Sucks to think about. Okay, let's move on though. Global draft though, that happened. Okay, give me the quick rundown. Who do you like? Who do you think is going to stand out? I always find it interesting. You see like, oh, someone got drafted. They're Danish, or they're coming from Mexican descent. I always find that interesting. A couple of Aussies, New Zealand guys.
Yeah. Well, there was like 4 or 5 kickers drafted. So I mean, teams are going to have their hands full. Whatever team thought they had the starting job kind of wrapped up, it's going to be. I mean, they'll obviously still be the front runner, but it's going to get more interesting now with these new guys coming in because, for a global player, you have to dress to them. Like they have to be on your roster, right? So you can't exactly cut them, right? So they have to make an impact whether you put them on the injury reserve or you put them on practice roster for a bit. But my knowledge is I think you need 1 to 2 playing every game, and it makes sense to have a kicker dressed every game in case your star does go down. So right now, I look at my former team in the Toronto Argonauts where he had Boris Beatty locked up. He'll be the star going into training camp, but they just drafted this guy where I watched a lot of film on him. His name is Toshiki Sato from Japan, and he's legit, man. He can do all three. Like, he went to that Zonners camp down there and impressed. Like, he did some really good things down there. I saw his stats. Like, he can hit from well over 60. He's a combo guy too, so he's able to punt. So I think Boris will have his hands full with him. It'll be competitive, which you want in the kicker anyway. Like, you don't want your job wrapped up and being all comfortable. You want to still have that edge and compete and earn your spot as well. And then you look at other teams, who drafted like D1 college guys who kind of migrate over from Australia. You're like starting to see that now with punters coming from Australia. These huge influx of guys who are kind of making their way in the NFL. Like, you look at a guy like Dickinson in Seattle, who's like a top tier punter now. He's one of those guys who came from Australia, played some college ball, then got drafted. You look at Sam Cook from the Baltimore Ravens. He's another guy. Jordan Berry from my Pittsburgh Steelers is another guy too. He went to Eastern Kentucky. So now with the global draft going on, and now you're starting to see, obviously, there's going to be a lot of international kickers coming in, where it's going to start to create problems for a lot of national talent coming into this, because Aussie punters have monster legs, man, like punting wise. It's going to create a lot of competition for national guys coming in now.
Well, I think from a Aussie perspective too, is like they're growing up playing that whole rugby game, so it kind of takes a different amount of leg strength to play rugby versus football. I think that there is a lot of different aspects that do cross over, but from the most part, rugby's still a different style of game. And so if they can transition into effective football players, it's going to work. Again, there's also, is it Kentucky in the States who's got that Aussie kicker? And there was a game he had like 3 blocked. He was just trying to run around a little bit too much. Didn't really adapt. Kind of instinct, I think, is a little different than a normal punter. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a hit or miss one.
It is for sure. But like from some of the guys I've seen is that they have so many, like you look at a guy like Josh Bartel would be another one, for example, came from Australia, but guys like that, they like come in these like camps and season 1, like game 1 rosters, just because they have so many various kicks that they're able to use on the field, where like guys like us, we're not really trained to use, like a banana kick or like an Aussie kick or like pooch kicks. You're just literally taught, since there's no fair catch, you're just taught to either launch the ball deep with accuracy, obviously. Like, you want to get it on or outside the numbers. That's what our coaches tell us anyway. Or you want to be able to angle it out of bounds once you're around that midfield area, right? So, but now they can offer like these pooch kicks, these banana kicks that special teams coordinators love, right? So it's going to force these national guys and American guys who aren't really used to these, like this new stuff, nuance of punting, to kind of, add new kicks to their toolkit during the offseason to kind of pair up and match up against these Aussies now.
For sure. Okay, I got we talked a little soccer already, so I got to talk about this Super League here, because I was very shocked that this hasn't happened earlier, in a sense of like, and then all these fans kind of going, oh, I don't want soccer to become a business, where it's like the highest profiled sport in the world right now. But like, it seems a little weird how this hasn't happened before, and also how terribly it was planned. It lasted 24 hours. But like from your
before it even started.
Yeah, that's worse than the original XFL. But I don't know. As a fan, why wouldn't you want to see your team play all the best teams in Europe? I feel like that's the best part about Champions League soccer, is seeing Bayern play PSG or Man U. Like, those are the games I want to watch. And I get it. I'm not a diehard fan, but I don't want to see Man U play Swansea or like Crystal Palace. Like, no, I want to see them play Bayern Munich. I want to see them play Juventus. I want to see all the top teams play all the time.
So, okay, I'm on board with you, but here's my thing, right? Soccer already has like hardly any off season. Like, after the season's done, you might have like a month and a half off, maybe, to yourself, right? And that depends on how good your country is, because it depends if it's like a World Cup year coming up, or a Euro Cup year. Then you have to start playing games for qualifying, right? And then if you're playing for a huge club, then you have that whole Asian tour or like Australian tour, where you go play various clubs, because the market out there is real because they want to pay to watch guys like Ronaldo come out, right, and then play for half a game, whatever it is, or guys like Messi to come out. Like the guys like that still have to travel with the team because fans are coming out to watch those guys. They're not coming to watch Zach Medeiros play for Manchester United. They're coming to watch a guy like like a guy like Edison Cavani, who's like their top tier striker, or Bruno Fernandes centering the midfield, right? And then listen, you have the league, right, which you're already playing 35 games, and then you have to qualify for Champions League, right? And then if you're not good enough for that, then you kind of get relegated down to the second tier European club championship, which is Europa League, right? And then you have other, championships cups within your league. Like if you're playing in English, you have the FA Cup to play for as well, right? So all these games kind of add up, and like I get what you're saying. I would love to see like a couple of this, maybe not every year, but maybe every other like 2 years, maybe they can kind of mix it in. But it's just so much soccer, man. Like what happens if they like play this, right? And then like a couple of star players get hurt just from like wear and tear because you only have so many guys in your lineup as well, right? So then you have to go back and try to focus on winning the league because then the league's going to kind of set the tone if you're able to qualify for the Champions League down the road because most top countries you need to finish in the top 4 to be eligible for the Champions League. So the last thing you'd want is like some silly injury just over like some meaningless cup that they just brought into existence when there's literally no fans. So that just kind of defeats the whole purpose of having this cup when you have all these top clubs coming in and playing in this league where who's going to watch it?
Well, I mean, they would have massive TV deals, which would be stupendous. But like, for my perspective, is this would have replaced the Champions League, Europa League for these teams. It would have been guaranteed income for them where they don't get that with the Champions League. And I mean, honestly, I think the reason it doesn't work is because it's not all in. It's not a full-time thing. They're still like, oh, you can play Premier League, but you also have to, play Wednesday games in the Super League. No, it should have been, hey, we're going to do this. This is one league. This is what's happening.
Okay,
a full season of Super League with the best 12, 15, 20 teams in the world, in Europe, whatever. I want that as a full season with nothing else. That's what I want.
Yeah, it's just tough though because if I'm a manager of one of those teams, like how are you going to balance out your like star players and which games they should play for now? Because now you're adding on like another 10 to 15 games when the season's already long enough already.
Well, no, I'm just meaning like gas all the other leagues and just play Super League.
Gas Champions League, gas
Europa. Yeah. No, I'm saying like Bundesliga, Premier League. Nope, we just got one Super League, and like I want to watch Barcelona and Man U play 3 times, 4 times a year. I would be so much more engaged, and I feel like other on the fence fans would too. But I totally get it. There's a whole pride for some reason in Manchester United beating 5th-tier clubs in the FA Cup.
Yeah, well, it's also huge games for those clubs too. Like, what are you gonna do with the clubs like Wolverhampton and like Swansea, like you brought up? Like,
they'll still get their games, but like, hey, you're just not gonna get waxed this year instead. I don't know. Imagine how much money would be tossed around though. Like if you're watching like Juventus, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, those teams play weekend after weekend.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like you're looking at ridiculous. Like each team's gonna get like $3.5 billion to play. That's crazy.
I feel like players though, and like you and I know this, you need those games here and there. We just need, it's like college football. You were talking about those like tune-up games. You need those tune-up games in the middle. Just be like, you know what? Like, I don't really feel like playing. If you're playing for United, you don't really want to play Man City too. Like, you know what? I want to play against like Southampton today and just wax them like 9-0. Just especially if you're coming off like a little dry spell. Yeah, you haven't scored in like 2 or 3 games. Like, you know what? Let's get like 2 tonight. Let's tuck 2, and then we can play Man City 3 days from now with a little confidence going to that
one. that is fair. Because you're like, oh, who would be the bottom feeders? You're like Arsenal, Tottenham. Yeah, they're really not that easy. I mean, when you're looking at Salah, those guys, they're still good teams. Plus, like, I would love to see soccer salaries go up even more. Like, think about that. They're saying soccer salaries can go up 15 to 25% more if they were to utilize a better system with guaranteed money. And that's crazy. That's crazy to think about.
Yeah, it would just take a bunch of like restructuring the leagues, that'd be a lot of work. That's like a total like off-season like makeover that they need to come. But before I let you off really quick, I want to ask you something about Igor Livlerianov's comments there the other day about the last 3 teams being relegated. How do you feel about that? Be kind of like, since we're on the topic about soccer right now, like
the American League's not even close enough. The markets aren't even close.
Yeah.
It's not like you're relegating the bottom teams in soccer to, the first league, where the first league teams are going to have the same facilities, same fan bases. The AHL and the NHL is not even the same.
Yeah. It definitely made guys play a lot harder for their jobs, though.
I would like to see it if sustainable. I just don't see it.
And the market's not there for it, eh?
No, I don't see it. No, it's a good one, though. Maybe we'll discuss that sometime. Bring back the WHA, something like that. That's going to do it, though. Halftime. Meds and Jan, Zach Maderos, Cody Jansen here on 12 Ounce Sports. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for hopping in the chat. Follow 12 Ounce Sports. Use promo code 120Z Sports on mybookie.ag. That's going to do it.